Remember where you were on Tuesday, October 1st, when J.D. Vance bodied Tim Walz. That wasn't just a win. That was the political equivalent of a bloodbath. I also want to humbly retract any of my previous skepticism of J.D. Vance, because that was one of the best political performances of my lifetime. That was the Celine Dion of political performances. It was just chef's kiss.
Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have to try and reduce the impact of climate change?
Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. And I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you've simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record.
Just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you,
Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn now to the economy. Thank you,
Margaret. The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word.
It was a 3-on-1, and he defeated all of them. And it would have been good even if Timmy Walz wasn't so friggin' bad, which he was.
I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect, and I'm a knucklehead at times.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen up doing is we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes it just is the guns. It's just the guns. And there are things that you can do about it.
Walz was so bad, he was almost worse than Joe Biden. And honestly, I would be shocked if Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi aren't currently looking to coup him like they did Joe Biden. Joining me now with his take on that and so much more is Jack Brewer Foundation Chairman Jack Brewer, who is joining us on the road in Florida, helping hurricane victims, which we're going to get to shortly. But Jack, I just want to get your initial takeaway from that VP debate. Are you as reinvigorated about the Republican Party as I am?
No question. I think we all, and I have my doubts about J.D. Vance as well, but he put on a master class on debating. I mean, it was incredible. I think the way that he started, at one point, he had backed Tim Walz so far into the wall that he started agreeing with Trump policies. I was like, yes, this guy right now is going to put on a MAGA hat like Joe Biden. I think it was absolutely incredible. I think what J.D. Vance did was he went in depth. He explained policies to the American people. I think he did it in a way that even President Trump can't do, just because of his ability to really dive in and make it real simple for folks to understand the depth of these policies. And I think that's what the Republican Party has really been missing, because the mainstream media has lied over and over again, and they misrepresent what these policies, just like the parole program on immigration, just like our stances on the Second Amendment, our stances on abortion. I don't think we've articulated these points very well. And I think J.D. Vance made huge strides for all conservatives and Republicans at that debate.
And I also think he did such a good job of kind of cleaning up some of the rough edges of Donald Trump without throwing Donald Trump under the bus, which is hard to do. But I do think that he explained some of the points that I wish Donald Trump would have explained in his debate with Kamala. And he did it with a smile on his face that came across as genuine. And I know that this is mostly about policy, but for those undecided voters out there that were watching this, I think they were also looking for for likability, and they expected to like Tim Walz because he's got higher favorability than JD Vance. But I think after watching it, JD Vance did so well. And you know what? There were moments too where he even said, I was wrong about this, or the Republican Party needs to do better on this. And you're right. There were moments when Tim Walz was over there nodding in agreement. And I thought that he was almost wanting JD Vance to just take it away. And I think this is going to be very, very good for the Trump campaign. Do you think he could win over some hearts and minds that maybe even Donald Trump couldn't?
No question. And, you know, because going into it, they had really demonized JD Vance to the point where, you know, they had made him anti-woman. You know, they had made him into someone that he's really not. And I think it was an opportunity also for him to relive his story. I think people really saw who the man that the movie was about. You know, they really got a chance to see that this is truly a normal Midwestern boy who's just accomplished a lot. And I think most Americans, you know, really appreciate that. And I think JD Vance did a great job of letting his true self come across. And without question, I think it's going to help us primarily with women voters. I think a lot of women voters, a lot of moms, a lot of mothers, you know, the timing of this for the Republicans, you know, we have bombs dropping on Israel right now, right? We have, you know, union workers at the ports about to step away and not going to work. We have all these issues in our countries as we're facing World War III and all these other, you know, this chaos happening around us, hurricanes and no federal relief in different places and happening at the same time. We needed something like what happened last night with JD Vance. We needed someone who could articulate, right, and bring confidence to the American people that we have competent leadership. Think about it. The American people have gone through almost 4 years where they can look on a TV screen and know that the person making decisions for their families, you never hire them to run your business. You never hire them to even come in and run your house. And so they're the president and the vice president of the United States, and they're incompetent. And I think JD Vance really highlighted that last night, and I was very proud of him.
I also think he gave the Republican Party, but also the American people, a lot of comfort that if he should have to step into the role, he could do it and he could be president on day one. And I really think that that's important. You know, obviously the people that love Donald Trump, they love Donald Trump. But for those that were still on the edge and they didn't know quite what to do, I think when you got Joe Biden, who's dumb, and then Kamala dumber, and then Tim Walz dumbest, and I'm not saying that to insult their intelligence, but just in the scale of things, people were not confident in Joe Biden because of his mental acuity. People are not confident in Kamala Harris because she laughs off things and she doesn't answer questions, and she has a series of gaffes. And then you have Tim Walz last night who didn't give anybody comfort. So you can't have 3 buffoons and you can't have 2 of the buffoons running for president. I think the people out there that were, you know, maybe they don't like Donald Trump, maybe they don't like JD Vance. I think they saw Tim Walz last night and thought, oh my God, we can't have 2 clowns in the administration. So I think that the Kamala team is probably scrambling right now. What do you think it's like for them today trying to explain that performance away?
I mean, as a former Democrat, you know, I was born and raised a Democrat, you know, all my life. And so, you know, I have a family of Democrats, and there's nothing you can do, nothing you can say to try to justify Tim Walz. I mean, God bless him, but the guy is weird. And you can see that on the screen. You can see that by his responses. You can see that by his approaches. I mean, what man puts tampons in boys' restrooms? I mean, when you hear that, you think it's just some made up thing on social media, but this guy really did that. And so you start looking deeply at his policies and who he is. I mean, he'll say anything to fit in with anybody. And I think that's what comes across, right? And I think, you know, when you start to look, I think Tim Walz really made Americans look back and say, okay, was it really that bad 4 years ago? Was my life better? And I think JD Vance just continued to hammer, right? Food prices, gas prices, energy prices. How is your life today compared to what it was 4, 5, 6 years ago? And I think the American people really heard that. And I think it resonates well. I think you're going to see a bump in the polls, particularly in some of these swing states like the Pennsylvanias and the Wisconsins and the Michigans, right? I think in these in these kind of, breadbasket states, in these counties that are so important to this election. I think J.D. Vance took huge strides for the Republican Party, but more importantly, he really showed the nation who the Democrats really are. So they can't continue to run from these policies. I mean, enough is enough.
Yeah, and I think strategically, they thought on CBS that it would be clever to have two female moderators. I think that was a trap that was laid for J.D. Vance because historically he's had issues with women. We know the childless cat ladies resurface clips. So I think they thought we're going to have two female moderators. We're going to make J.D. Vance look bad. J.D. Vance did not fall into that trap, but I think that the folks over there at MSNBC, they didn't really watch the debate. They already just determined that that was going to be the narrative, that he was mansplaining, and lo and behold, this is what they tried to pull. Let's take a listen.
Yeah. And I actually think if you're a woman, that might be the worst moment J.D. Vance had, because he was going to mansplain right over that mute button. He was, and again, I don't pretend to know how everyone will react to this. I think that a lot of women in positions of authority that should command respect just by virtue of that dynamic will see themselves in some dude that disrespected them and talked over. I mean, there was a moment like that with then vice presidential in the Harris-Pence debate.
They want so badly to make this guy seem like a sexist and a misogynist, and he came off the exact opposite of that. And I think they hate that because they wanted the caricature and they didn't get it.
No question. And, that voter, that female voter that's in the middle, that's undecided, they don't agree with those folks on TV. The undecided female voter saw J.D. Vance last night and was very impressed. My wife is a conservative woman, but she doesn't like all the bannering. She doesn't like all the politicking in the harsh words and the slamming. And last night she was blown off her feet. And I mean, she's that voter, right? And so I really think that J.D. Vance did an incredible job. I think, if you're a Democrat, think about it. What else can you do right now? I mean, you look around at the world, you see people in North Carolina, in Florida, and in Georgia, you see people, their lives are ravished. You don't see the president or the vice president doing anything, right? And so people are watching this. You see bombs dropping around the world. You see all these issues that we're having. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we gotta have common sense back.
I think you might have muted yourself. There we go. We got you.
Republicans have common sense.
No, I agree.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. You're good now. And an important point that you made about common sense. So that's why I've been hoping for the last several debates that somebody would bring up, if they're going to bring up climate change and gun control, I was hoping at some point somewhere they would bring up men and women's sports. Because if you want to talk about all this other nonsense, let's talk about it. I wish that would have come up last night. But I got to say, I think the American people, their mind is pretty made up on this, at least the sane people out there. And I want to bring another topic to your attention and get your thoughts on it. But I'm really proud to see that there are three college volleyball teams that are refusing to play against San Jose State, University of Wyoming, Boise State, and Southern Utah because they got a trans on their team and they're like, listen, we're not doing this. What do you think about that? And do you think that maybe this is the start of a movement that could make some change?
I sure hope so, Tommy. I mean, I as a former pro athlete, and I used to be the biggest supporter of my women's volleyball team and our women's basketball team. I'd go to their games. I support them. I never imagined. I was a sports management major. I got my master's in sports management. I never thought I'd see a day where you'd be looking at men playing against women. And so, yes, I mean, at some point, the women have to refuse to play. And it's up to the coaches, man. These, especially the female coaches, the great female coaches, that majority of them were great athletes in college themselves. They know this stuff isn't right. They need to continue to pull their teams and not play against these men. And I'll tell you another thing. The women that are going to these schools shouldn't want to even play on a team with a male athlete. They need to start walking off those teams. And that's going to change this. If the women that are on those teams start walking off like they should. This is a time, this is like Title IX. This is a time, this is a women's rights movement right now. And if you really want to stand for women's rights, then you'll walk off the field. You will not play against men. Enough is enough. We shouldn't even be entertaining this. We shouldn't. I mean, listen, these folks have mental health issues, and we can't keep coddling mental health issues in the United States of America. A man that wants to play against a woman and beat up on a woman has a mental health issue. They need to go get some help. They need to go to a clinic. They need to go to an institution. They don't need to be playing college sports and treated like they're heroes. And so enough is enough.
You're right about that. And, you know, all this talk about women's rights and women's freedom to choose, I was hoping that that would have been brought up last night. Well, what about a woman's right to play on a team with other women? What about a woman's right to be in a locker room or in a bathroom and not have to be with a male? That's when we're talking about consent and we're talking about women's rights and safe spaces for women, it just never comes up. But, you know, we've got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris finally going to go to North Carolina. They're going to see the devastation of Hurricane Helene. I understand why they couldn't go initially. They didn't want to drain resources. I'm not going to play politics with this. They're going. I appreciate it. But you're in the heart of it. You're helping with relief efforts. You're out on the ground. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're seeing and hearing from folks out there, and what are they in most desperate need of right now?
Tommy, it's devastation. A lot of people know me as a professional athlete, but I've been running relief missions for almost 20 years. And we go in with teams. We've been distributing, dozens of pallets of water, thousands of gallons of water. Today we're delivering over 10,000 pounds of meat. We're delivering underwear. We have 1,000 pair of socks. They need socks, they need underwear, they need clothing, they need blankets. I mean, these people, imagine your house being flooded to the top. I mean, some of these houses took on 20 foot of storm surge. So just imagine all the mold and everything that comes out. They got to literally gut their houses. I'm talking about take sheetrock off. And those are the houses that are standing. And many of the houses are completely blown down. I'm in a community right now, Steinhatchee, and this community, 85% of the houses are gone. They just got completely blown away. And so, I mean, you can imagine these Americans. I mean, these are hardworking American people. These are wealthy people. These people, a lot of them didn't even have flood insurance because it's hard to get here. And then many of them were inland and they've never seen that. Some people, I've met families that have been here for 50, 60, 70 years. They've never seen a storm like this. It just it's never hit in this way. And so, and you talk about all the issues that for a place that already was dealing with massive inflation, right? Massive fuel costs. These people are already living check to check. Now all the businesses are closed. Like where I'm at right now, I had to pull over to the side of the road. There's no electricity at any of these buildings. I can't just go inside and find lights. I have to do this interview in my car. And so that tells you the reality of the situation on the ground. And the news can only show you so much, but I'm telling you, I'm here on the ground. And it is terrible to think that Americans are going through this. Children are waking up like this. This is mold everywhere. There's no electricity. And Governor DeSantis and the Florida Department of Emergency Management has done incredible. I mean, I think we had 2-3 million people that didn't have power, and now we're down to 300,000 or 400,000. So we have hundreds and hundreds of workers out here putting up poles, but you can only get to it so fast. And so it's really a dire situation, Tommy. And I just pray that people continue to send resources here. It's not like other storms where you just send money. We need money to buy people stuff to give them dignity, right? Women need underwear, right? Women need feminine products. Like, I don't want these little girls and women not having feminine products. I don't want these little boys not having underwear and socks. This is America. And so we really got to do something and continue to try to help these folks.
It's devastating. And, just watching the images, it's just amazing that Americans are living like this. Now, you know, to me, I would be frustrated if I were in those communities, relief not coming quick enough and people like yourself going out and doing the work. You know, the government they're supposedly doing what they can, but that doesn't really give a lot of comfort to people that are in that situation and they feel helpless. And so I can completely understand their frustration and it's warranted. But have you seen community come together? Because right now we're so divided. This country is so divided. But I've seen it on Fox News, as I'm sure you've seen it firsthand, that these communities, when they're in the face of tragedy and heartbreak, they're coming together. Have you seen that? And are you seeing neighborhoods that maybe give us some hope?
That is it. I am rejuvenated. That's why I'm coming back. That's why I'm driving 6 hours to go reload our trucks. And I got my crew of 14 men that we are in the community right now, cutting trees so that the veterans can get to their houses, 80-year-old veterans. You see communities that they have stores. They're not selling anything anymore. They're giving away all the food. You see, neighbors and brothers and sisters coming and they're going house to house to make sure that the elderly, make sure that the vulnerable can all get into their homes. They're surveying each other's homes for them. Right now, that's what we're doing. We're coming, we're go get supplies for the community. They're the ones setting it up. They're the ones distributing it. We're feeding into that system. We're giving them the resources. But there's no government here right now, federal government here right now, coordinating all this. Florida Department of Emergency Management is about all we got down here in the help of Governor DeSantis. But other than that, these are communities. They got to go in and continue to do this. And so right now I'm on the way to a VFW, right? That VFW had no power. I made a bunch of phone calls, helped get their power turned on. Thank God for Governor DeSantis and Kevin Guthrie and Florida Department of Emergency Management. They got the power on in this area. So this VFW can now operate. Now, what are we doing? We're bringing in 10,000 pounds of meat. We're going to start barbecuing for people so they can eat a decent meal, right? We're going to have allow them to come in and have some shelter because now we got electricity. We can actually have air conditioning. It's hot in Florida. I mean, 90-something degrees yesterday. So you imagine being outside, you have no electricity, you're working all day, trying to get trees off your roofs and trying to save your houses and trying to find any picture frame or anything that you have that may be special to you that you lost in this flood, and then you're burning up. I mean, so that's the conditions that we're dealing with right now on the ground. And I think, it's because of that resiliency of Americans, true Americans that love this country, that love their neighbors, and they're not going to let these communities fail. They're going to rebuild these communities. And it's not going to just be off the backs of the government. It's going to be off the backs of the people.
Well, that's great to hear. And in those moments, you really see the American spirit. Jack, I know you got a lot to do today. You're working hard. Where can my viewers and listeners go to learn more about what you're doing and chip in if they're able?
The Jack Brewer Foundation.org, the Jack Brewer Foundation.org. We work with a lot of great organizations. Goya Food's been incredible for us. Public food stores, Marriott hotels. We work with a lot of the big ones. And a special thank you to this partner of ours and helped us for a long, long time with these relief efforts. And so just thank you to so many people. And you guys keep us in Florida here in your prayers. I know North Carolina is also going through some horrific situations on the ground. Keep them in your prayers. But this is a time for Americans to come together. And if you're looking to help chip in, please donate to us. We'll make sure that every resource gets to these people. And I don't do it. I'm not some celebrity that does it for talk shows and tweets and likes. I deliver this stuff with my hands. And so I can guarantee you your money is going to get to the right place in Jesus' name.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time on such a busy day. And thank you for all that you're doing. It's really incredible. And it gives us a lot of hope, a lot of things to be hopeful for today, even when things are not looking so great in some parts of this country. Thank you. God bless you.
Amen.
Stay safe. And God bless all the people that you're helping out there.
Thank you so much, Tommy. God bless you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. All right, folks. Democrats claim they can win elections fair and square, but said Democrats then go out of their way to undermine election integrity. And as usual, California leads the way. It's time for Final Thoughts. Airports, bars, ticket will call, liquor stores, and R-rated movies. Those are just a few of the places you'd be asked to show an ID in California. But as for voting, no, that's oppressive. And to be sure that oppression of proving you are who you say you are isn't enforced, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law preventing local governments in California from requiring voters to present an ID at the polls. So this move was made for a number of reasons, and I'd argue in an effort to undermine election integrity and invite voter fraud. But specifically, it was done to prevent the only conservative bastion left in California, Huntington Beach, from passing any voter ID measures. In fact, even though residents of Huntington Beach wanted voter ID, California's AG and Secretary of State sued to invalidate that. So what the hell is the rationale behind it? Or at least what is the excuse they're willing to admit to anyway? Well, the Democrat state senator who authored it, David Min, says voter ID requirements disproportionately affect low-income, elderly, and minority voters. He also told the LA Times that voter ID measures are based on fringe conspiracy theories. Yep. They are still going with that crock of crap lie because these snakes really think it's believable to claim that poor people, people of color, and old people don't have identification and would be hard-pressed to acquire it. Really? Really? You know, I'd have more respect for Democrats if they just come out and say they support voter fraud, because how else do you explain it? Democrats in Congress wouldn't vote for a spending bill if it included provisions to prevent non-citizen voting. The friggin' DOJ is suing Alabama for allegedly purging non-citizens from voter rolls. And then there's that thing about Joe and Kamala letting 10 million plus illegal aliens into our country with the express plan to give them a pathway to citizenship, also known as voting rights. But if you so much as point out this series of events, you're a conspiracy theorist? You know, I think their motives are pretty clear here, and you have to just ask yourself why. Why would Democrats want to undermine election integrity? Why would they want to import millions of loyal voters from around the world? Why? Could it be because they know they can't win future elections based on their policies because the American people are too smart for it? So they'd rather take a path of least resistance? If that's not true, they're going to have to give us better reasoning behind it than voter ID is racist, because no honest person is buying that. And those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in again tomorrow live at 1 p.m. Eastern. Also, please make sure that you catch full episodes of this show on Fox Nation at your leisure. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. And from Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.